All right, we are headed into week number 3 of the college baseball season. And this is a big one for us for 2 reasons. Number 1, we have the Frisco Classic coming up in Frisco, Texas. It's going to be live on FloBaseball, the Flo Sports app. We're really excited about that. But number 2, and more importantly for right now, I am fortunate to have the opportunity to talk to UCLA outfielder Garrett Mitchell. He's one of the best players in the country. He has been now for about 3 years. So to get him on Quick Pitch this week is pretty awesome. Garrett, thank you very much for your time, man.
Yeah, no worries. Appreciate it.
Hey, before we get into it, I need to take advantage of a rare opportunity here where I get to get some opinions from someone that is from Orange County. I don't get that opportunity much in the middle of Texas. And there's a couple of things I want to ask you. First of all, the Dodgers go out and they get Mookie and they get David Price. Are they finally going to get over the hump this year?
Man, I don't know. I mean, anything can happen in baseball, as you see through the college ranks and the major leagues. It can happen anywhere. It doesn't matter who you're playing at any time. But we'll see if they can finally get over the hump this year. They definitely have the pieces to do so. But it all matters about when they get to October.
Well, that was a very diplomatic response. Are you even a Dodger guy? I didn't even ask you that.
That's funny. So since I'm from Orange County, I've grown up an Angels fan my whole life. But, being in LA for the past 3 years, I've come to love, LA baseball with the Dodgers. I've always been a Lakers fan. I've become a Rams fan over the past 3 or 4 years as well. So kind of being in LA has kind of changed my sights to trying to like LA sports a little bit more.
Okay, so that's the divide then, huh? If you live in Orange County, you're an Angel fan, and if you live outside of Orange County, you're a Dodger fan?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Well, that sets me up nicely for my second question. Is it going to be LA Lakers or LA Clippers coming out of the West?
Holy moly. Well, if it was my choice, I would say the Lakers. But you never know. Like I said, there's a lot of good pieces on both sides. Obviously, regular season-wise, the Clippers have the upper hand right now, but all that matters is when it comes to playoffs. So I'm excited to see what happens, though.
Huh. All right. Let's talk baseball. Let's talk UCLA. Do what we brought you here to do. You're a UCLA guy. Best I can tell, you've always been a UCLA guy. So give me a little background on what that program means to you and particularly what it meant to you as a kid. Did you grow up pulling for the Bruins? Did you always know that you wanted to end up where you are right now?
Yeah, so growing up, my dream school was always to come to UCLA. I always thought of it as more of a dream rather than a reality at a young age. So when I got the opportunity to meet Coach Savage and be a part of the Bruin program in high school, just kind of getting to introduce myself and know that they were looking at me. I'm thankful for a guy named Josh Morgan who's in the Rangers organization. He was committed here as well. So thankfully for him, he got me some more eyes when I was younger. So when I got the call from Coach Savage to come meet him and come up here and tour the campus and get the opportunity to get an offer, I jumped on it right away. I knew this is the only place I wanted to be. It's close enough to home, but it's also far enough to where my parents can't come knocking on the door to come see me every 5 seconds. And it's obviously the best on the West Coast. So it worked out for me. And, just being in this program for the past 3 years, I'm very thankful for Coach Savage, Coach Ward, and Coach Peters, and Coach Gallego for all that they've done for me. They've taught me how to play baseball in a different way. I believe that my IQ and just the way I see baseball now is a little bit different than when it was in high school. I think I'm being able to slow down the game as well, just kind of have fun and just play the way I've wanted to play my whole life. And it fits with the whole being quick, running, stealing bases, and bunting the baseball. It's always kind of been part of my game my whole life. So coming here and playing at UCLA, I've kind of incremented into that well. So being here for the past 3 years, I'm very thankful for it, and I'm very happy that this is where I've been.
Yeah, for those that don't know, you can elaborate on that a little bit. That's the personality of UCLA baseball, is it not? Play aggressive, play fast.
Yeah, so basically with Coach Savage, obviously he's our pitching coach, but for how long he's been here, he's been the same guy ever since he's been here for the past 15 years. Nothing's changed. He's had the same philosophies, and they obviously work, right? Every year we're always in contention, playing playoff baseball, having a chance to go play in the World Series. Obviously with his philosophies, if they ain't broke, don't fix it. So the way we played, it's about always being smart and doing what the game calls for. So you always kind of got to realize as there's always those few couple pitches that are going to be the most important in the game, and you never know when those are coming. So it's important that when it comes to executing, putting down bunts, putting on hit and runs, playing really good defense, having good pitching, all that stuff's very important. And I feel like sometimes that gets kind of lost, where it's all about, having the big power numbers, hitting a bunch of home runs, but that's never really been the UCLA philosophy. Obviously, in the years that I've been here, I've been blessed to be around guys like Michael Tobia, Chase Strum, Ryan Kreidler, guys like that who, can hit the ball pretty damn well. And, the last couple of years have been kind of known as the powerhouse of the West Coast a little bit, but that's not where we've ever been. It's always been about the small things, getting on base, getting hit by pitches, stealing bags, putting down bunts, and it's allowed us to be really successful. So for a West Coast school, especially with that Marine layer at night at Jackie Robinson, it's not known for hitting home runs. So knowing how to kind of adapt to different types of games, knowing where you just got to put the ball on the ground, do whatever the game calls for. I think that's what's made us really successful, at least in the years that I've been here in the beginning of this year so far.
Yeah, no question. Hey, I ran across this photo of you on Twitter from August of 2016, and no, I wasn't stalking you that hard. It was just near the top, I promise. It was taken during the perfect game All-America batting practice. So it's of you in your follow-through. We got a lefty, he's rocking number 24. And it reminded me of a guy who would eventually become a logo, and a guy who was my guy growing up, and that's Ken Griffey Jr. And it made me wonder, now I realize I just dated myself a little bit in the fact that I grew up watching and idolizing Ken Griffey Jr., but who was that guy for you? Who was the guy that you wanted to emulate when you were a kid, and a guy that you wanted to play like as you got older?
It's funny. So being an Orange County guy, I've grown up watching a lot of different players come through the Angels organization. And, being able to watch guys like Mike Trout now over the past, 6, 7, 8, 9 years has been awesome. It's someone that I appreciate because he plays the game fast. He's always having fun. That's really important. When I was younger, I used to be a big Garrett Anderson fan. We used to have season tickets in left field. And I remember, he probably wouldn't remember this, obviously, but I don't know how many baseballs that guy gave me. And it's funny that I ended up getting to be around him a little bit more because his son went to high school with me at Orange Lutheran. So I got to see him and actually introduce myself and kind of share my story with him, letting him know that, oh my gosh, I've been a Garrett Anderson fan for so long, and you had no idea, and now you're here. So which was funny. And so him, David Eckstein, I was a fan of when I was younger too, because I used to play shortstop, as well as Adam Kennedy, and I got to play with Adam Kennedy when I was in 8th grade for his travel ball team. So I got close with him too. So it's kind of cool to see where you grow up idolizing some of these guys and the way they play the game and how they have fun, and comes full circle where you get to meet them and you get to share. They get to kind of share their stories with you and kind of understand kind of how they play the game and how it went on for them. So that's been really cool as well.
That's cool, man. Yeah, Garrett Anderson has to be considered one of the most underrated players of that generation. I think one of the greatest Angels of all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when you were a kid, and I know people wear that out, and I don't want to make this whole thing about that because you've more than proven that it's not an issue for you at this point, but I do think that it's a hugely inspirational part of your story that you've been able to overcome something like that and be the elite type, not good, elite type of player that you are. So if you could just spend a minute and kind of take me back to, I don't know, what were you, like 11, 12 years old when you found out? You tell me. And then just kind of explain to me that moment in your life and the struggles that you kind of overcame along the way to get to where you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? It's funny. I love sharing the story just because for me, kind of just off the subject, as much as it's been about me playing baseball and, wanting to be a Major League Baseball player my whole entire life, coming to college, it's also helped me realize that I want to do more than just play baseball. I want to help change kids' lives and have them see that it doesn't matter that with diabetes that you can do anything you set your mind to. The only person that's going to stop yourself from doing something is yourself. And if you believe, it doesn't matter if anyone else does. And that's kind of been my thing my whole life. I've been kind of doubted. My family and my friends have always been on my side and known that's never going to be an issue. But, obviously there are doubters and there are people who question it, but that's not for me to determine, not for me to be concerned about, because I'm doing what I do every day, and that's play baseball and having fun doing it. I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was 9 years old. I was in 3rd grade. And at the time when it had happened, it was a little bit, a little bit confusing. I didn't really understand what was going on. I was definitely sad. I was upset. I was angry. I didn't really know all the emotions I was feeling at the time and what it meant. And I also kind of used to ask the question, like, God, why? Like, why me? What is this? Why me? Why do I have to be the kid who has this? And that mindset only lasted for 6 months, probably about 6 months to a year. Because after that, it became, you know what, this is going to be my everyday life. It's not going to change anything. I can sit here and complain and say it's terrible and it sucks, but the thing is, it's not going to change. So instead of sitting here complaining, why don't I just deal with it and keep my head up and just do what I want to do? So for me, that was tough at a young age. But now it's so a part of my everyday life that I don't even think about it. When I wake up, I test my blood sugar. When I eat, I test my blood sugar. When I go to bed, I test my blood sugar. It's all the same thing every single day, as well as it doesn't really change the way I eat. It doesn't change what I can have for foods, drinks, as long as I know how to correct for it. And people think that, oh, when you're diabetic, you can't eat sugar, or you can't have alcohol, or you can't do all these different things. And it's like, that might be the case for some people, but if you can know how to control it and you know your body and you know the things you can and cannot have, that's different. So for me, I've been very fortunate and blessed to have this, because for me, it doesn't affect me anymore. And I wish I could take it away from everyone and I was the only person who could have diabetes, because ultimately, I mean, I'm very thankful for it. And at the end of the day, I also feel like in some ways it's made me healthier as a person, because it's also made me realize how to take care of my body and understand what my body needs to be ready on a day-to-day basis when it comes to baseball. And people take it as, okay, well, he has this disease. How can he manage it? Well, really, you should be saying, wow, this kid has a disease and he can manage it. And now he knows what he needs to do to feel good and play good every single day. And there's guys who play different sports in all different professions and don't know how to take care of their body. And I feel like for me, that's an advantage, because now I know what I have to do and what I need to feel good every day. So for me, at the end of the day, I'm very thankful that I'm here in this moment, being able to share my story, to be able to help kids, not just with diabetes, but with any type of disease, to let them know that, you know what, you can do anything you set your mind to, and don't let anyone tell you you can't do it. And if you ever have questions or you ever need to talk to someone, I'm always here. So.
Damn, Garrett, I got to tell you, man, I had a lot of respect for you as an athlete before we ever had this conversation, but that response right there, I have an immeasurable amount of respect, not just for what you've been able to accomplish on the field, but for your perspective. I think that was really a valuable bit of insight right there, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, no worries.
I think it's fair to say, right, that there were some fears about your ability to perform at the major league level going into the draft out of high school. I mean, you were a projected first to third round pick, I think, and then you went 14th round. So take me there. Take me into that moment, or in those few weeks as you're kind of, you see yourself fall in the draft, and I would love to know what the conversations were that were taking place between you and your parents, or you and your team, essentially, as you kind of decided what to do, and ultimately, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but made a decision, it seems like, to price yourself out to where you knew you could go to UCLA at that point and prove yourself as a member of the Bruins.
Yeah, absolutely. What's funny is, like, kind of going through the process and looking back now, for me at the time it was tough and it was frustrating, and I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself to kind of have to perform and do certain things, especially out of high school, because obviously for guys who are at the top of a draft like that, they have a lot to prove, and obviously if they're going to be taken, you got to be able to show something. And I think for me that I put too much pressure on myself at that time. And for me, it was more important to just go out there and play. And you know what? For me, I knew that even though things weren't going the way I wanted them to, I knew that I had the best backup plan that anyone could ever have to come to a university like this. And by doing that, I set the bar high and said, you know what? I'm going to take my chances that in 3 years I can come out of wherever I'm at in high school and go play 3 years under Coach Savage, and I could come out better than I was before. And obviously it puts away a lot of the doubts about diabetes and a lot of other things, because it gets to show that I'm out on the field every day being healthy. And even if I wasn't, if something was not good, or, I'm dealing with adversity in some ways with injuries or whatever it is at that time or in that moment, that you can continue to still work through them and be okay. So for me, I'm very thankful that I ended up coming here anyway. And I think that it was part of God's plan. And my family was 100% in support of it, as well as my advisors, that they ultimately, the point was that I should come to school anyway. Go try to get a degree, almost finished, and come out, being more of a man, more of a guy who can take care of more responsibilities, and that's just kind of where it went. And obviously, I'm glad to be here in this moment right now with you, even having this conversation. So.
Yeah, I mean, safe to say the gamble paid off because, I mean, at this point, the rate that you're going, I'd be surprised if you get outside the top 10, let alone the first round. All right, let's talk just a little bit about the team as a whole. Obviously, coming off of last year into this year, a year ago, you guys looked destined for Omaha, and then you run into that Michigan kind of Cinderella story there at the Super in your house. They end up knocking y'all off in a 3-game series. And by the way, I mean, in my opinion, that was the best 3-game set that we saw throughout the tournament last year. So for you, coming off of that, I want to play a little sports psychology here. How did you as a leader kind of use that to fuel the guys and get the guys reset after coming off a disappointment like that? Because, again, it looked like y'all were headed for Omaha, and to fall a game short, that had to hurt. But then this year, it looks like everything is back to normal.
Yeah. So, obviously at the time it was hard. I mean, obviously you have juniors and seniors who aren't here anymore that, we wanted to get there for them. They've been here for such a long time and they've all had the same goals in mind, and to fall up short was obviously disappointing. But knowing that when you're coming to UCLA that you're going to come here to compete every single year, it wasn't too much of a challenge to be able to tell the guys that, like the incoming freshmen or the redshirt freshmen or the sophomores or whoever, that, we have a job we still got to do. We came up short last year, and now there's new juniors and there's new seniors that are here trying to do the exact same thing as we were last year. So for us, with the start that we've had right now, to feel like we've for me, I try to preach as well as all the older guys is that you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? So for us, our weakest link is nobody. So we're all pulling the same way. We all have the same goal in mind, and that's to get to Omaha again. So really, when we look back to last year, you try to put it in the dust and say, you know what, like, we were close, but we didn't make it. But we can't focus on that anymore. Now we have a new goal and a new objective ahead, which is the same thing it was before. But we're on our way there. We're taking steps there now as we speak right now. And I think that's the most important thing as a team, that we're all pulling the same way. We're all going the same direction. And it's not on one person to do everything. We're all take equal amount of responsibility to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, and I feel like you're almost a microcosm of the program, because UCLA obviously walks around with a target on its back because you're UCLA. So you're getting everybody's best effort, and then you individually, you're Garrett Mitchell. I mean, people know who you are. When you step in the batter's box, you're going to get that pitcher's best effort, his undivided attention for the duration of your time there. It's rare that someone would lose concentration with you at the plate or lose concentration in a series against UCLA. How do you compartmentalize and how do you block out the noise, and how do you deal with the fact that you know that you have to be on every single pitch, every single at-bat, every single game, because that's what you're going to get?
Yeah, well, for me, I try not to put that pressure on myself. I dealt with that in high school my senior year, feeling like I had to go out there and do more than I could. And I've learned that over in these 3 years that that's not how this works. Obviously, I'm going to get played a certain way or pitch a certain way, but I'm going to do what I do best, which is put the ball in play, run as fast as I can, steal bases, and score runs. At the end of the day, there's a lot of things that people want to see, but I'm not here to impress everyone. I'm here to come win a title, win a national championship, and bring it back to UCLA. So whatever that means, if that means just me getting on base and letting guys behind me just hit, that's all it takes. Because just me, even if it's like in the sense of like they're trying to throw around me and they'd rather walk me than, give up a home run or whatever you want to say, dude, I'll take the getting on first base, because I don't need to hit home runs. I'm just trying to score runs. So for me, I try not to put that pressure on myself. I try just to go out there and compete every single day, every single moment, and play within my own abilities and let everything else take care of itself.
Right on. All right, let's wrap this up. We're way over what I told you we were going to do. I couldn't help it. You guys are on a run here where you got Pepperdine coming up with a midweek. Then it's on to Frisco, where we'll be for Texas A&M, Oklahoma State, Illinois. Then you have Santa Barbara for a midweek, a trip to Santa Barbara for a midweek, and then it's the Southern California Baseball Classic, I think is what it's being called. But all you need to know is that Vandy, TCU, and then obviously crosstown rival USC are on the schedule. The lone knock on you guys really over your first 7 games, I mean, there's really not one. The only knock is that you haven't really been tested yet. You haven't played an opponent that is of your caliber. That's going to effectively be put to rest over the next 2 weekends. So my question for you, kind of a two-parter, in your view, and I'll use Frisco as the example because, in talking to the guys that are putting that together, and now with the Round Rock Classic, the idea is we basically have 2 halves of Omaha. in February. It's kind of the environment that they're trying to create. And if the Round Rock Classic was any indication, it's going to be a show for you guys in Frisco as well. So you can be excited about that. But with an environment like that, what you're going to find in Frisco, competition like you're about to come up against in A&M, TCU, Vandy. First part of the question is just, how does that better prepare you guys for the Pac-12? Sure, but then also the ultimate goal here, which is the NCAA tournament, which is Omaha, getting that experience in the month of February.
Yeah. Well, you know what? For us, at the end of the day, you got to keep in mind that it is only February. That we're also going to be really battle tested with some of the guys that we're playing. But at the end of the day, we just got to go out there and play baseball. But we can't look too far ahead. Obviously, we know what the goal is at the end of the day and where we want to be and what we want to do. But we just got to focus on what's at hand. Focus one game, one pitch, one moment at a time. And I believe that with those philosophies that coach and us as players have kind of set as a standard, I feel like that's all we have to focus on. And by us doing that, it's going to allow us to be successful and play well.
Right on. Second part of that question is, and I asked a similar question last week. I know the ultimate goal is Omaha. I know the ultimate goal is to win the Pac-12 and go to Omaha. Like, that goes without saying. I'm not going to sit here and be like, Garrett, what are your goals? But I would like to know, when you get on the other side of that gauntlet I just described, when you wrap up against, essentially when you wrap up against TCU and then you have USC and then it's into Oregon, what do you want to be able to say about this group? Like, what do you want to be able to have accomplished over the next 2 weeks and be able to say about this team as you guys head into Pac-12 play?
Obviously, winning. We want to win. That's first and foremost. That's the goal every day when we step out on the field. But just to know that, us as players, like, we have that fight, that we can take blows, that we can get knocked down, but we can get back up and keep fighting. Because at the end of the day, no one's going to go undefeated. Like, we're going to lose games, but the thing is, at the end of the day, if we go out there knowing what we can do, being able to take punches and give them back, and just play well as a team and not give up on each other, and know that it doesn't matter if we're down to the last pitch, that we still have a chance to score runs, that's all that matters. So for us as a team, I think it's important that if we have guys that we can see, if we go down in some of these games, that we have fight, that we can come back no matter what the circumstances are.
All right. It'll be Garrett Mitchell in UCLA, Texas A&M, Oklahoma State, Illinois at the Frisco Classic, Frisco, Texas. Again, live on FloBaseball on the Flo Sports app. If you're not in the Frisco area, if you are in the Frisco area, quite frankly, you need to get out there. All of those teams are worth seeing, but the guy we're talking to right now is worth the price of admission alone. Garrett, thank you very much for your time, my friend. I appreciate it. I wish you guys the best of luck coming up this weekend. Looking forward to seeing you, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it.